Hi guys, and welcome to this second video of the 81 months of Dao De Jing series. I'm Robert Coons, and this video is about the question of the very first three characters of the Dao De Jing, Dao Ke Dao. For a long time, I had wondered, perhaps this Dao Ke Dao is not such a clear meaning. Okay, a lot of the time in English, we get the translation Dao Ke Dao means the Dao which may be spoken. Of course, it's part of a famous, you know, I think 12 words, right? Dao Ke Dao, 非常 Dao, right? The Dao which can be spoken is not the constant Dao, and 名可名,非常名, right? The name which can be named is not the constant name. But for a long time, I had wondered, how much that interpretation stands up. And the reason why I had been wondering that was because, indeed, when you analyze the word Dao, one meaning of Dao is to speak, okay? But I'd never found any sources citing where this idea came from, right? So if you read Chinese etymology texts, you read, old documents, you read, modern writing about those documents, often it's not so hard to follow a word back to, an original source to verify it. But for Dao, I always had trouble with finding speak as one of the definitions. And so I thought, hey, if I'm doing this Dao De Jing thing very seriously, then those questions that I've had lingering in my mind about the Dao De Jing for ages, I should try to answer them. And so today I did some digging around, and I found at least a good start to answering that question, which has been persistently nagging me. And so I will share it with you, keeping in mind that I am a passionate amateur. And so, I would like to completely um, own up to the possibility that I will make a misinterpretation. But I have before me a document uh, which I will share with you. It's in Chinese, so I'm just going to interpret it on the fly. And we're going to use this as a good place to start. So, where did I get this? The website is called zhuanlan.zhihu.com. So, Zhuanlan, ZHUANLAN.ZHIHU.com. Slash P slash 132731428. So that's the web address, and I will copy it into the description for the video for anyone who wants to have a look at it. You can read it in Chinese if you read Chinese, or you can translate it using a myriad of different methods of translation. So we're looking at the Dao Ke Dao, okay? And what they say is Nan Huaiqian. So Nan Huaiqian, very exceptional Buddhist scholar from the 20th century, and a great figure. I love Nan Huaiqian's work. It's so interesting and so creative. Um, he wrote a book called Lao Zi Ta Shuo. So Lao Tzu, he said. And incidentally, I think I have a copy of it in my parents' house, so I gotta go check. Anyway, so apparently he said Dao Ke Dao, so the Dao which can be spoken, Di Erge Dao, the second Dao, 不应该是说话的意思. It should not be taken as the meaning of speaking. Uh, and he said because in the 春秋 Zhanguoshi, during the time of the Warring States, around the time that supposedly Lao Tzu would have been alive, um, this idea of speaking, you exclusively used the term yue, so it's how you say speaking in old Chinese text, rather than Dao. The word Dao came about during the Tang and Song period, so much later. And so he's got a little article here. I'm going to synopsize it for you. It basically says the same thing, it's just in more detail. He says basically this Dao, this second Dao word that people take to mean speak, um, it's this doesn't comply with the correct principle. It's not right. When they use this word, to speak. This is actually something that people started saying in the Tang and Song period. So, we're talking like after 600 or 700 AD, basically. And it comes, it's actually contained in the Hakka language and in the in Canton dialect today. So there's some cultural history there, right? So there's this sort of common understanding that some element of Cantonese culture and Hakka culture is a result of people who were displaced, after the decline of the Tang dynasty, I think. But let's not get too much into it. But what he's saying is this term is still contained in those dialects, and in the Tang Song period, people would say things like "dao lai, dao lai, su dao, su dao," right? Like just say it quickly, say it quickly, say it, like spit it out, basically using the term dao. He says, but then also in some novels, it has things like basically talking about using the word Dao to speak. That's the key point. He said, but in the Warring States period, this was, like well over 1,000 years or around 1,000 years before, and their language was different, and they used the word yue when they said speak. So, like for instance, zeyue, like Confucius said, or mang zeyue, right? Mencius said, etc. So in the Dao De Jing, the second word Dao probably shouldn't be applied to speaking, right? It must have a different meaning. Okay, so that's apparently Nan Huaichin's direct speech. The author of this article says, in fact, this is biased. And in practical terms, during the Warring States period and the Spring and Autumn Warring States period, the Tao could actually mean to speak. And so he has some examples. He says, in the classic of poetry, uh, it uses it directly. He directly quotes a line that talks about using the word Tao is used to imply not speaking, and then it says, basically, it gives the rationale for what it means. Um, for instance, uh, certain kind of, like, as far as I can tell, about certain kind of speech that you shouldn't use in the home, which is that reference to the poetry. Uh, and then in Shunzi also it uses the term Dao to talk about speech, uh, etc., etc. Right. So basically, the author here gives a number of indications about warring state texts, which also use the term Dao to imply speech, and says that basically Nan Huaichin is incorrect in his analysis, and indeed, during the Warring States period, the term Dao was frequently used to imply speech. So when we look at the passage Dao Ke Dao, right, the Dao which may be spoken, then we can certainly directly interpret it as such. And I think that this offers some insight that is quite useful for us. One of the biggest insights for hopeful Occidental or non-Chinese, of whatever uh, nationality, ethnicity, etc., who want to understand Taoism, is that indeed there's a very active discussion going on about the meaning of these old documents even today in China. So it's not like they're easy even for people in China. And this gives us a lot of hope because it means that, we're, even though it's difficult for us, it's difficult for everyone. So um, if we're really passionate about it and we really like it, then why don't we just keep doing it? And eventually we'll hopefully we'll see a good result. Okay, um, and then beyond that, it's also useful to come across articles like this, but it's because we can find out, here's an argument that, here's what a couple different people think, here's what one person thinks, here's a refutation. Okay, but having said that, I don't think this is probably the final word in that discussion. Um, I don't know how much more I'll look around, you know, for this to verify this one very thing. I'm fairly satisfied here that, okay, yes, we can use the second use of Dao there to infer speech. I think that's reasonable because the author gives a very clear indication of period use of the term Dao as speech, and so I think that's sufficient to um, assuage my own curiosity about that, at least for the time being. But these kind of rabbit holes are fantastically interesting to me. Um, just to remind you about what's going on here. Um, I've taken it upon myself to study one chapter of the Dao De Jing per month, um, every month for 81 months until I'm done the text. I'm taking anybody who wants to come along for the ride along. There's free videos here. There's articles on Substack. We're right at the start. And I'm teaching some classes too. I'll also put the link in the description along with the link to this article. It's a much, much longer article about the meaning of this Dao Ke Dao in the first chapter of the Dao De Jing. So I hope all of this is useful to you, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Lots of love. Bye bye.